Okay, woodworkers, so welcome back. Talking about where I'm at. So I've got edges glued in where I can. Obviously the back is dialed in. That one we started with there. I did the centerpiece and then these ends here first. The trick is going to be, for this design, the trick is going to be filling in these gaps now accurately. If you have a continuous curve here that does not terminate at right angles, then you're going to be fine. What I would be tempted to do is glue in the center piece and then just start working my way around and then putting in another piece until I have these little horns left at the end. Those can always be trimmed off later, as I've kind of shown here and here. I'm not worried about those. Those are easy enough to deal with. What's fussy about this is, again, just kind of finding that perfect balance between good alignment here and then pulling this in to make good alignment on both ends. Giving consideration to what it is we're doing here, I'm going to be trimming off 2 inches of this thing, more or less, but I can't afford to have any gaps here or here. If sometimes the gap is narrower outside here on this very outside corner, that's great at this dimension, but once I trim it back to where I need to, then that gap is going to start to open up and it starts to become this nasty issue. And I really, it's much more, it's well worth the time now to just address these issues of gap and then get this closed in. Okay, so I've got both of these. Having said all that, they're both fit, they're both labeled. I know this is facing up, I can't invert this over there. I'm also going to know right away it's not going to fit. But locating these is going to be important. The trick with this now that we didn't run into with gluing on this front edge is that when I started I had 2 parallel surfaces here and here, and so this glue up was a breeze. Conversely, this one was as well, assuming my inside corners, these were not shifted too far up or too far back. That would definitely create a gap somewhere. So just making sure that these corners are trued up, and that's all I care about. So now when it comes to throwing this piece in, I've got a bit of a challenge, because if I start to clamp this thing across, you'll see, I don't know if my hand's not in the way, you'll see that this clamp is just slowly going to start to follow down that ramp. It's not going to bind or hold where I need it to. And then the more pronounced this curve is, this becomes a bigger issue. So this no longer works. What I am going to do is employ a different glue-up trick that will require me to put a clamp here, and then these clamps need to hold onto my MDF substrate. So the depth of this clamp is not enough to do what I need it to do, so this clamp is no longer any good. But this clamp will be a breeze. So that's pretty good. Okay. So setting up this clamp for doing this, this glue up is what I'm after. Before I throw this thing in, for any good glue up, please do not forget to use glue. Big fan of using a roller when I can. If I were to brush this thing on, it would take me easily 5 times as long to do that, which is okay, except for when you're gluing up. Anything that takes any additional time is never okay. Okay, so clamping the heck out of this thing. It's not engaging here. There's really nothing holding this into place except for that glue that's starting to set up. So what I'm going to do is employ 2 ramps. That's good. Alright, gluing the heck out of that. Got 1 wedge there, another wedge shape here. With with those two wedges working against each other, then I can get in here and really start driving the pressure into where I need it. If I have clamps that do not hold and they start to slip, then this is just not a great practice. But this is a nice strong bond, a nice joint, and I'm getting good squeeze out everywhere. I'm going to just assume that the bottom looks equally fantastic. So, so that's what I need to do for the glow. Before I go too far, I should probably talk about process of finding and fitting these pieces. So I've already cut this piece, but I'm locating where I need the next one to be cut. What I did was hold this piece here, and then from this location I can draw the curve, use my left hand to hold this all into place,